And my guest this week is probably what I would say is the best stand-up comedian working today that I see. Maybe there are people who are better that I don't see often. I think that's fair to say. I'm only speaking from my experience. But he's also a guy who's knee-deep in sobriety. You know him as Theo Vaughn, and that's also how I know him. Theo Vaughn.
I'm here. Thank you for having me, bud. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man.
This is cool.
This is the kind of friend I am. You've hired me to be a part of your Comedy Central project, and then in addition to you hiring me, I then also asked you to come and be on my podcast straight after shooting your show.
It's true. I wouldn't expect anything else out of you, Mo. You know, Mo is
a good guy to be friends with if you like giving favors.
He's artful in his. If
you're in the favor giving business, you need to get yourself some momentum.
No, man, I'm happy to be here, man. You know, I definitely, we talk about this sometimes, but I certainly value your friendship and, doing this. We're doing this pilot presentation or pilot kind of thing with Comedy Central, and I wouldn't have anybody else out there. It's been a blast, man. Yeah,
I love that we're doing this together because we met 10 years ago exactly working on another Comedy Central project.
That's true, huh?
Isn't that weird?
Reality Bites Back.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a great show. If you can find it out there, some people, I still get emails every now and then say, I love Reality Bites Back.
It was so funny because that was absolutely the first TV thing I ever did. I think I'd been on Craig Ferguson or something, but I had just moved to L.A. And you, through The Real World and other stuff, you had been on like a lot of TV shows.
Right.
So you knew
I hadn't been on Comedy Central.
You hadn't been on Comedy Central, but you had been on cable TV enough to know that nothing was going to happen.
Right.
It was not going to change your life at all.
Right. It wasn't going to change our life, and we kind of became buddies on there.
But I really thought it was. I had never been on TV a show before.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting with you in the van. If anyone never saw it, it was like this 8-episode show with a lot of people, like Amy Schumer, Tiffany Haddish. A lot of people were stars now.
Oh, my God. That's so true.
Insane.
Now that Tiffany Haddish blew up, it's almost bizarre.
It's crazy. We were all on that show together. And then Bert Kreischer, a lot of people who are doing really well. Donnell Rollins, Kyle Cease. And I remember saying to you, dude, like, we're going to be like household names. Like, people are going to fucking know us. I remember you just saying in front of the producers and everybody be like, dude, no one is going to watch this show. And I remember laughing just because it was so outrageous that you'd say that for the producers. Also, I thought it was ridiculous that no one watched it. And then, like, absolutely nobody watched it. I couldn't believe it.
Nobody watched it.
I remember doing a college, a month after it aired in front of 600 people. And I remember saying, like, did anyone hear of this show? And, like, no one. And I was like, dude, if college kids aren't watching this,
then nobody that you watch is Comedy Central.
Who else could have tolerated that show but college kids?
They burned it off in the summertime. I remember. Do you remember that? It was, but I'll say this: we got paid more on that show than per episode than on half the projects I've been on for sure.
And by half, I would say all but like 2.
Yeah.
Like, it's so scarily true.
Dude, that money, I couldn't have survived if it wasn't for that money.
No, man. I remember I moved down here to L.A. with $10,000 in my pocket from winning this Comedy Central contest that you were in as well.
You beat me.
I beat you. I beat Hannibal Buress.
Shit. Wow.
Clearly I'm just a better comedian than both of you.
I could see it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I don't see it very often, but every now and then.
No, at that time, dude,
And that was all my money. And then I was like, moved down here. And I didn't have an agent, I didn't have anything, and it was like I would go to Subway and get like $5 footlongs, and then I remember like looking at my bank account and be like, I'm gonna like go into Subway soon and get a job application. But I love our friendship began because me and you were probably like the 2 lowest on the totem pole on that show, and neither of us really were very friendly with anyone else on the show at that first week, and one of us was going to, whoever won each episode got to pick one person who didn't have to go home, and the other ones would get voted off. And me and you both knew if we didn't get immunity or whatever, because basically it was a reality TV show, we would get voted off. Yeah. So we made a pact. If you win, keep me on, and then I'll do the same for you. Yeah. You won, you kept me on. I would have absolutely got voted off. No one liked me.
Did that
first
really
week.
happen?
It absolutely did. You don't remember that? Yeah, we made a pact. And then I got immunity on the weight loss episode one, and then I kept you on.
Nice, man.
And a friendship was born. And now we're both 2 guys in our mid-30s who are alcoholics.
Yeah, that's really, wow. It's actually a perfect segue. That's so true, man. Yeah, dude. Yeah, well, you just got 3 years, you said. I can't believe that.
Yeah, man, 3 years of no. But see, I had an advantage over you in a sense, or not an advantage or whatever, but I never got into coke.
Right.
You really got knee deep into coke, which goes.
Yeah, thanks for offering that up. I know we were just talking about alcohol.
But see, as a comedian, I felt more comfortable putting it on to you.
No, of course you did.
You talk about it on your podcast and stuff. So
No, I talk about it. But yeah, it led me to, like, I don't have a problem with drinking. If I buy a beer, I have found myself that I'd be likely to buy cocaine sometimes. And I just don't want to take that chance right now. Now, when I have a family or when I have a wife or something down the road, it might seem a lot more desirable to want to drink and do cocaine.
Well, then you'll have someone who could help you out.
Yeah, that's true.
You'll have like a wife and a kid give you the support to be able to do cocaine, by yourself. No, you got to stay straight. No, but it's interesting because like we've always been friends, but I never knew you did that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, I don't know, like when you think of drinking, because when I think of drinking, I talked about this last week, I know I can't do it because I am turned on by the idea of drinking into oblivion. Like the idea of drinking till I pass out is what allures me to it. Like we just had a long day shooting your show. It went great. A normal reaction is let's have a crack of beer on the patio and just enjoy it. That doesn't sound appealing to me.
Right.
What does sound appealing to me is getting like just drinking like 6 beers and falling and passing out.
Yeah.
So that's how you know it's unhealthy. But what is your feeling?
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think I think you hit the nail on the head. If people are, some people may question or not if they, are an alcoholic or have some of that in them. And I mean, that's always a question that only you can answer for yourself. Everybody's, relationship with it is different. But, like you're saying, the thing to look at is your relationship with it. Like, that's what it is. It's like, what's your relationship? Like, my relationship with alcohol is no problem. Like, I had a no duels 4 nights ago at dinner, and I don't have any, I don't even like drinking. I didn't like being drunk. But if I had 2 beers and I saw a guy that sold cocaine, then I might be more likely to get that cocaine from him. It's like, if you go over to somebody's house, are you likely to play video games? You likely to do this? You likely to do that? If you go over to alcohol, are you likely to do this or that or whatever? And I know if I go over there to drink, I'm likely to more likely to do cocaine. If I don't go over there, probably 0% chance.
Every time I've done cocaine, my takeaway is people ruin their lives for this shit.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Because you are cocaine a little bit.
You think so?
Oh,
what does that mean?
yeah.
Just angry and sort of hyperactive a little bit?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Dude, cocaine makes me a little bit like you.
All right. That's fair enough. But then why, when I do it, don't I turn to something else? Like into like a butterfly or some shit?
I don't know. It is, and that is unfair.
Because it is very unfair. Because I remember doing cocaine a few times and it would just be like, oh, it was great. I sat in the bathroom with 4 other dudes at a party, and I heard all about, everyone started talking about like their experiences at summer camp, and we really bonded, talking about like how we each had played on rope swings when we were a kid, and we talked about it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I was like, that was it. Like there was no like you see guys in movies do coke like, and then he was fucking a ton of bitches. Yeah. He was in a dance club. For me, no, it's just sort of like hunched over a sink like, oh, really, Dennis? My dad also had a Toyota, and then we would also drive to the country. Nah. It's so fucking lame.
Yeah, man.
That's just my experience.
And it was lame. Yeah.
But I've heard some of your stories. You did some cool shit, at least.
I had some fun times on it, man. And, one thing I do miss about it is that it was a gateway to irresponsibility. It gave you then an excuse to be irresponsible, to do things that were ridiculous. Yeah. It's like, if I go outside right now and, if I go on your porch and throw all of your lamps out into the street or whatever, you're like, oh, what a, dude, what. But if I do a bunch of cocaine and
I'd high five you.
Yeah, you're like, dude, it's like a movie. It makes things like a movie.
Totally.
And that's what I missed about it. I mean, that's what I liked about it. But that was the idea of it. But the reality was I'd buy it and then I would just be at home doing it by myself. And it just was the reality was sadder. It was the fantasy that was exciting about it. Because the
Isn't that true of almost every experience in life? The fantasy is actually better than the reality?
Yes, except I find I think honestly being in a loving relationship, I think the reality of that actually is better than I don't think you can create the fantasy.
Because the fantasy of being in like a loving, stable relationship is like you're just sort of bored and you're listening to someone complain a lot. The fantasy is actually, it's like a nightmare. You're like, oh God, someone's telling me to do shit and the fuck, it's just bored. But then you're actually in a real loving relationship where you actually love the person. And you're like, oh, this is wonderful.
It feels good.
Yeah, I know, it's true.
Yeah, so I think there's something there. Like it's hard to fantasize about things that are like, that have real feelings in them. You can fantasize about things that are, like being high on cocaine and partying and eating, pussy off somebody's balcony or whatever. That's fantasy, that's not a real feeling. But when it comes to like feelings, like loving somebody or having a family, like, having a real, something that's intimate and real, then that's, it's not something you can fantasize about as much because it's something that comes more from within, whereas a fantasy is more in the brain.
Well, that's kind of a nice segue to one thing I was thinking about in terms of sobriety, in terms of like ways it's improved my life. And I would say for me, the number one thing that I've gained from sobriety is I enjoy sex a lot more.
Really?
Because I think sex for me when I was drunk was always about the like fantasy of it. Like I was sort of like an out of body experience a little bit. Like, it's sort of like you're drunk, so the world already seems kind of like you're already kind of disconnected to the world and your own feelings. I think that's what makes it so fun to drink for me. But so then when I'd have sex, it would be like I'd really feel like I was in a porno or like I'd really feel like I was like in a movie having sex, which would be arousing and fun, but sobering up and being more in tune with not just my feelings, but also like physical feelings and being able to enjoy it in just sort of multiple ways. Like I feel like I definitely was more of like a ground and pound kind of love maker in my drinking days because there was like one sort of sensation I could kind of enjoy, and it was all about like just finishing, orgasm.
Finish her.
Not even her. Finish yourself. It'd be okay if it was finish her. I think in all my drinking days, I probably gave one orgasm.
And now is it more like Cirque du Soleil or like what's it like now?
I haven't seen that performance art, so I can't speak to that. So I would never want to compare. My girlfriend's listening, and I would hate to compare my lovemaking to an acrobatic sort of performance that lasts 3 hours. But I feel like it's certainly a Disney ice-capade. No, I just feel like there's somehow more like, I don't know. It's like the process is more. It's like when you're eating a meal, right? And they give it all out to you at once because maybe the waiter fucks up and you get your appetizer and your fucking salad and your thing. And you kind of just eat it all together because you got to get it done now. Everything's going cold, Imagine like now it's sort of like each piece of the meal kind of comes out separately so I can enjoy it all. Like the making out, the sort of foreplay, the different position. I don't know. I just feel like, at least to me, it's like I always say, sex with me is like attending a Cirque du Soleil performance.
Wow.
I've always said that at least in the last minute.
And you have like that 40-minute break in the middle.
You got about a refreshment break. You just have a cook. There's a bathroom element to it. You got to line up. You're always like, oh, the bathroom line is huge.
There's a guy eating popcorn.
There's a guy in front of you. You can't really see what's going on. Yeah. Most of the people there. Yeah, most of the people in the performance are Chinese. But I don't know. I think it's.
So you think the sex is better when you're sober, but also do you think that that's because now you're in a more of a comfortable relationship? Could that be it? And it's just simultaneous.
I think that definitely helps, but I do think in general sobriety has helped me just appreciate sex more. Like, because I don't. I think there's also like, you're drunk and sometimes it's like, I don't know. It's also scary. Like how many people I have sex with, like barely like I know I did it and everything, but the details of it are like kind of fuzzy.
Oh yeah.
That's terrifying. Not terrifying. Yeah. It's just kind of gross. Your body was on like autopilot.
Oh yeah. And you were a kamikaze too at the same time.
Yeah. It's not scary. It's just sort of like, wow, I must have like left a lot of women being like, well, that sucked.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've disappointed so many women. It's almost fascinating. I think how much bad sex I've had across America and even in some other countries.
You ever wonder if there's like a support group of women who have had sex with you and they just sort of like there's like a chat group and they're sort of like, yeah, did you notice that?
Oh, I've heard of some stories. I've heard stories of being like, oh, I met so and so, and we were both sharing stories about you. And I know that the stories are that I don't fuck for a long time. That I'm kind of a intermittent fucker.
Intermittent. I mean, you kind of Taking breaks?
No, wear mittens while I do it.
Oh, you do intermittent. Oh, okay, I understand. Yeah. Well, that's sort of an ancient technique. I mean, your father was from El Salvador or something. So that's Guatemala, right?
It's an Iditarod pastime.
Yeah. Where is the most exciting place you ever had sex?
Oh, in a Victoria's Secret dressing room.
Oh, really? Interesting. How the fuck did you pull that off?
I don't know. I was like a freshman in college or a sophomore, and I was seeing this girl who was still in high school, which is the hottest thing you can do. There's nothing hotter than that. If you are in college.
Wait, you were in college, and so you were having some consensual rape.
It's not rape, dude. Everyone was consensual. I might have been underage.
As a sophomore in college, I don't think you skipped grades.
I graduated grades pretty early.
Okay, interesting.
I remember I completed one grade in like 6 months or so.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Victoria, that is pretty. I had a girl when I was a freshman in college. I couldn't get laid at UC Santa Barbara. It's the only guy who ever went there who couldn't get laid.
Wow.
And I had to drive 9 hours up to have sex with my old ex-girlfriend from high school.
You couldn't get laid at UCSB?
No, it's really fucking pathetic.
You didn't get laid the whole time there?
No, my freshman year, they almost kicked me out of school because I couldn't get laid.
I believe it.
Yeah, the dean was like, dude, you're killing our image, bro. You need to go to like UC Irvine where this kind of attitude makes sense.
Wow. Yeah, dude. So UC Irvine seems like people don't even fuck, you know?
I doubt it.
They just like each other's like.
But you are one of these guys who's kind of like, you're like a weird kind of comic because like most comics aren't like cool or able to get laid and stuff like that. But you kind of probably always were like kind of able to get laid.
I was always able to get laid, I think. You know, not when I was young though. When I grew up, like, you know, girls did not like me at all. And then I switched high schools, and that was huge, man. Because you don't realize that you're growing up, like how much stuff just builds.
Your reputation builds.
Yeah, and it's not even your. It's just like what box you fit into.
Right.
And when I switched to another school, I remember walking across the gym one day, and I was a sophomore in high school. I was walking across this gym at this new school, and I saw like a hot girl like look at me. Like, watch me walk.
Because you weren't the guy who, like, milk came out of his nose in second grade and then this and
right,
then this.
You weren't all those things.
Yeah,
and you weren't, like, the class clown. Really,
I remember the time you cried when you, like, stubbed your toe.
That's all gone.
I know.
And suddenly, it was like, literally, in one walk across a gymnasium, I didn't like, I was like a fancy pants or a male model or nothing, but I had an idea that, oh, wow, something can be different here.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And by the time I got to the other corner of that gym, I was like, dude, I got a fucking shot.
That's kind of fascinating because, yes, so much, and like you're from a small town, it's like I'm from a small town, and so much of like how you see yourself is just based on what is expected of you, you know? Like, and I didn't realize I wasn't dumb until my brother went to college because he has always been so much smarter than me, and he would just cruise through his homework, and I always felt like I'm basically stupid.
Right.
And so I wouldn't even try. And it was once he left for college, I was like, oh, actually, I can kind of do. I did a lot better, you know.
Well, you probably didn't even have a chance to know who you were a little bit.
Yeah, you're kind of just sort of outshadowed or overshadowed, I guess would be the phrase. But like in terms of like being cool in a new school environment, you have this great bit where you talk about like this Mexican kid who came to your school and you had no Mexican kids, and like he became like the coolest kid ever.
Yeah.
You know, I remember a kid doing that at our school where he came from Michigan, and I think he played it up like he was from Detroit or something. Like he was probably from Ohio.
Yeah.
But he really played it up, you know. And he was such a fucking brilliant kid because within like a week of being there, he came to school with a cast, and everyone went nuts. So this was like in 7th grade, where like if you had a cast, you were cool as fuck.
Oh yeah,
you know. And he had a cool cast. He had on his arm. He had fallen off a roof. He claimed that he was up working on his family's roof, and somebody left a hammer, and he fell off and broke his. But his cast, it didn't look like a cast. It looked like a paper mache cast, and it was like that's some homemade motherfucking cast shit right there, you know. But it was like it spread around. Fucking look at this kid with the cast, you know. Everyone's signing it. It really was just like your joke, where like he became the star of the school, right?
Yeah.
He had a girlfriend all of a sudden, and I just remember me being a little hater motherfucker that I was, be like,
oh yeah.
Does anyone else notice that doesn't look like a cast? Like I broke my arm. I mean, I broke my leg before. It had like a real cast. There was like cotton in there, and that looks like some paper mache, you know. I really don't think it's cast. I don't think his family was so poor they had to like turn a pinata into a cast, right?
Yeah.
But then I turned out to be right because the fair happened to be in town like a week after he got the cast on, and he had the girlfriend by that point, you know. And there was rumors that I think probably a lot of true rumors that he was making out on the Ferris wheel. But then he tried to get on the zipper, and the guy I remember stopping him saying, "No, you can't get on with that cast." what does this dude do? He goes, I think it's probably healed by now anyway. Tears off the cast and puts it in the garbage so he can go on with his girlfriend. And the fucking idiots in my school, the sheep, no one called him on it.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, that dude, on top of everything else, has real quick healing strength.
Yeah,
He's
ripped his own cast off so he could ride a dangerous ride.
This dude's like Wolverine.
Yeah. And you had to call him on it.
No, I knew at that time I was so low down that there was no victory to be had. I just sort of had to accept that.
You're calling a cripple out?
No, it was like calling out Superman for his cape being too short when I'm like a homeless guy in Metropolis. Like I was such a fucking loser that no one would have seen it other than just you being a loser.
Wow.
Yeah.
At least you recognize, yeah, that could have gone bad. When you go against, it's like people that cheered against Jeremy Lin in that 7-week span when he was hot, you know? It was like, you can't cheer against Jeremy Lin, you know? When he was scoring 60 points a game. Remember that the Asian gentleman?
Oh, yeah.
I want to say Lin, I believe he's Chinese. And that's his definite guess.
Is he still in the league even?
Still in the league, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, it was amazing. That was such a fun time because everyone was like, it's kind of like what's happening with Black Panther right now. Like people are trying to be like it's a good movie. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's a great movie, but everyone's like sort of trying to talk about it without bringing up the racial component.
Right.
Like, they'd be like, he's just a great basketball player. They couldn't just be like, especially for an Asian guy. You know what I mean? That was what they wanted to say, but they just couldn't say it, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, dude, Hollywood's so crazy. It's like, you know, it's like sometimes they're like, oh, we're so diverse. But then, what was it? Like 2 years ago, black people were begging to get awards at what was that?
Oscar So White. And meanwhile, no Asians are in anything.
Yeah. Or how about Latinos? How about what makes this entire industry run?
It's interesting how, and
they don't say a word really about it.
They don't say a word about it at all. And it's sort of like, I remember I sold a pilot to Fox one time, and I went to this thing called like the Racial Summit, where it was like all the people who were writing for Fox shows or had projects in development. And it sounds fake, but it really is. It's a real thing they do, where all the people are there in the room, all the writers who are like, you know, primarily white, and a delegate from all the different races get up there and say why you should make your characters Latino or Asian or black or Indian. And they literally go up there like, Asians, well, there's only this percentage of us. We have this amount of buying power, and we've been shown to respond this much to this. So you should really make your characters this, because that'll get, you know, to our show. And then black people go, this is why you should watch our shows, you know? And then the president and the president of Fox 20th and the Fox broadcast, who couldn't have looked whiter. They looked like Ken and Barbie at the time. They get up there and they're like, and really, guys, when you write these characters, like, don't just make like a Asian character. Like, really, like, you know, mine who that person is. And I'm like, but no one's here is Asian. So what am I going to like try to like just make the challenge of writing an Asian character? I'm sure that's going to be a terrible character. Yeah. What the fuck do I know about that? Well, let me try to write an Asian 55-year-old woman. I know that experience through and through. You know, like I think he kind of just needs some writers to do that.
Well, I think also you have.
But who am I kidding? I want white people to get back on top in Hollywood so I can get a job. I mean, it's like, it's not every article that's like celebrating everyone who's not white doing something. It's like, yes, in theory, I'm 100% for that. I 100% agree with that principle, but it kind of makes you be like, no one's rooting for me right now.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh, it's scary. And you know what I realized, like in things like that, especially like, I mean, especially being a Southern, like, or, you know, especially perceived as a Southern person, and I am from the South, but, you know, it's like, when was the last time they had a Southern person on a sitcom? You know, 25 years.
And when have they had a Southern person on a sitcom that's not like the dumb comic relief?
Yeah.
You know?
And that's a ton of it. And then you wonder why. Did you wonder why? And that's one of the reasons, man. People can say all they want about like the voting and stuff like that. One of the reasons that Trump got a vote, Hollywood. People were so angry at Hollywood. And once everyone in Hollywood went for somebody, all those people who feel left out, the South, it's not a ton of people, but it's probably 20 million. They're like, fuck that shit.
Oh, dude, how much are they loving these sexual harassment things? They're like, haha, the one thing you had over us, Hollywood, was your morality. And now you don't got shit.
Yeah, I think it's one of the benefits of having this whole Trump thing happen is that it's making other things happen. You know, it's making things come to the surface. It's making, you know, there's such a fervor for, we're not going to accept, you know, we're not going to accept just anything anymore in every regard. We're not going to accept it in our, we're not going to accept inequality. We're not going to accept sexual harassment. It's making people, it seems like, really wake up to what's going on. So I think that that's I think you have to look at the positives.
It's a weird thing though, to be like a straight white male in Hollywood where the focus is so much not on straight white males in terms of casting and wanting development, because I 100% agree with the sentiment. It sort of actually makes you have to like stick to your, it makes you really have to be like, okay, my principles are more important than my selfish desire to be part of shit. Because I'm like, 100% shit is racially imbalanced.
Yeah.
There's no fucking doubt about it. Like half the writers' rooms I've ever been in, I look around, I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous. Or you look at the casting on shows, why is the hero always white? Like, it's fucking stupid.
Right.
And finally people are like, okay, we got to stop doing that. But then there's a part of you are like, oh, when they were just giving parts to white people all the time, like, it was still really hard to get a part. So I don't know how I feel about this. It's so funny because like, where I grew up in Boonville, there was no black people, and then one year, there was like a group home in town, and it sounds like racially whatever, but it's completely just the facts. They got like these 5 black kids from Oakland who had like committed some crimes or whatever, and so they got put in this group home up where I live. It was about 3 hours from Oakland, and the football team got phenomenal, and the basketball team got phenomenal because there was no black kids in the whole county really. So these kids were just fucking they just happened to be black and great athletes.
Yeah,
and the sports teams got way better, but there was like a little backlash. And it wasn't even racial. It was just selfish of some of the like local guys who had played football for the high school, and now it was time for their kid to be in high school, and all of a sudden their kid wasn't getting to play. Yeah. And it wasn't racist. It was just like selfish. Whereas like the way I'm sure a lot of baseball players felt pissed when baseball integrated back in the day, because it's like, hey, I only thought I had to be this good.
Right.
You didn't tell me I had to be this good.
Yeah.
It's like it's just more competitive.
Oh yeah, and also I don't think there's anything wrong with generally saying some ethnicities and some races and some cultures and people from some areas are even better at some things than other people.
It's ridiculous that we can't say stuff like that.
Yeah,
And look, we're two white guys, and I think people need us to dig into this racial topic. If anything, this discussion needs, it's 2 sober white guys to break down race in America.
But it's one thing is when I thought about for a second. And when I thought about when it was like, okay, now it's tougher for white people to get opportunities and stuff like that, it made me think about what it's probably been like for...
100%.
Immediately. The first thing I was like, man, this sucks. Oh, wow. This is what that probably has felt like.
Yeah, because what I feel like now, being like a, white dude, especially one that's not young, like mid-30s and shit, I'm like, okay, you just have to be 1,000 times better than the average person to make it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't and I feel like I could do that. You just have to have you have to have the best script, and you have to be the best actor, and you have to be the best comic, and then you can make it. You're making it as a comic, your name's blowing up. A lot of some white guys are really blowing up this year. Tom Segura blew up. But the idea that you have to be so much better than the average to make it, it's exactly what it's been like for other races.
Right.
Right. It's not fair that now we have to be subjected to the same rules.
In some industries, but in some industries it hasn't been, I think, but in the end you want things to be, you want everybody to have an equal shake, and I think some of that will just take time. And also I feel also though you don't want to weaken down entertainment or environment or any genre by just giving out accolades to quickly show equality.
Absolutely.
I don't know if
Hollywood is like taking
Hollywood's
a giant,
definitely doing
big highlighter. Look look at this. Yeah, it's definitely,
It just doesn't help, but maybe it does help.
I think it's sort of like everything. It's like there's always like a overcompensation, and then things kind of even out into like a more,
something more realistic.
Yeah. So when you're not drinking anymore, what are you doing to even out, to cope? Have you found a new way? I mean, like what? Because you've been doing the AA program. You find that helpful?
Yeah, I do the AA program. It's helpful for me because most of my sobriety is emotional sobriety. I don't know if I've ever really been addicted to alcohol or cocaine. I don't know. And when I say cocaine, I mean the most time. I mean I probably did it 30 times total.
Yeah.
Like we're not talking like.
I know you don't make enough money to have really gone much more than that, especially those years. I'm shocked you actually can afford that many.
But it, just it's just about emotional, how I feel on a day-to-day basis about myself. And that was not getting any better. And so, 12-step programs help a lot of people. And, and they help me. And it gives me a group of people to be around. Fun. Dude, I've always wanted a group of the craziest fucking weirdos as friends. And now that's exactly what I have, And it's crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. I love it. I like AA, man. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I was actually really touched last week after I put out that podcast that quite a few people that I know in the industry, whatever, reached out to me and be like, hey, I go to AA. Do you want to ever come with me? And I thought it was pretty cool, Yeah. And it made me feel kind of flattered and touched that they cared enough to offer that. And also like, wow, these people really believe in this program. Like it's obviously helped them a lot,
Yeah, man, it's cool. I'm glad that you got that response. It's weird. I'll go into a meeting sometimes and I'll sit there and like, the other day I went into a meeting and I was meeting a friend there, and then there was another chair on the side of me and another guy came in. And it was a meeting I'd never been to. And he sat down. I knew that guy was a friend. And I just like got really, really emotional, just teared up and just, because all I ever wanted to be around was, probably a couple of buddies that I didn't think were judging me or didn't think were thinking I was less than them or something, like somewhere inside of me, I didn't realize that. But in that moment, to be overcome with emotion and just realize, and they didn't know what was going on, but just to realize, man, all I ever really wanted was just, to be in a group of probably buddies who I didn't think in my head or I knew in my heart weren't judging me.
So interesting you say judging, because that's something I feel so strongly of, like when I would go to a party or any kind of social situation, having to get over that brutal self-loathing and self-consciousness. And that's why you go right to the alcohol, at least for me, to like just get over that.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because people... like self-consciousness or that low self-esteem or feeling like people are judging you is not something that reads on everybody.
Right.
Like if someone sees you, they don't think that. They don't see that.
Right.
And so when you say that, people are like, but he knows he's cool because everyone thinks you're cool.
Right.
But you don't know it.
Yeah.
It's such a weird fucking thing. It's like you can't, it's like someone teaches you the directions to a place, but you can never find it to that place on your own. Like, you know how to get to that place. You know the direct, you're not a loser.
Right.
But you can't shake the feeling that you fucking are.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And then you see it the other way, where guys have all the self-esteem in the world. And you're like, how the fuck does that guy not know he sucks?
Yeah.
Like, why? I can't figure it out.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And also, then it's crazy how sometimes I would have just such an, it's like I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex, because then you would get so used to growing up. I got so used to, thinking that everybody else didn't like me that I had to like myself so much, even though I really didn't. I had to put on this air like I did. So then you create this weird ego that's not really based on a lot of positivity. It's just this kind of surfacey kind of thing. But you just become so obsessed with what's going on with you. But it's really just because you just want to seem okay. So it's like you're monitoring yourself to seem okay. It seems, and so it's this weird ego, and then at the same time under it is just so much, inferiority.
Right, because the more that you're not in touch with all aspects of yourself, the more like a volcano is building beneath the surface. That's why drinking and drugs ultimately always crash down, because not only is it just unhealthy, but you're ignoring something that is going to keep festering like a tumor of emotion.
Yeah.
I think that's why, now it's like, I don't know that I feel like people are like, well, what's the benefits of being sober? Like, I don't know that I feel happier on a day-to-day basis, but I do feel more clear about how I feel.
Wow, that's a great way to put it.
So, like, if you feel like, I used to sometimes wake up like fucking angry and vindictive, and I would just sort of like be like lash out at people. Now I kind of feel like I'm a little bit more aware of like, just basically because I'm not hungover or whatever, like that's just how you feel today.
Right. And that's not even, if I get moving and don't lay here for 5 minutes, that's probably going to change a little bit.
It's amazing, right? Like how much physiologically your mood can change. Mm-hmm. Like if I wake up, like honestly, I wake up almost every day depressed.
Yes.
I just wake up unhappy and sort of depressed. And I'm like, fuck, today's going to be one of those days, But as soon as I like put on fucking Howard Stern or something like that and get in the shower and the water kind of hits my face and I'm amazed at how much happier I am 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And yet the next day, I wake up fucking depressed and thinking I'm not going to be able to get out of bed today. It's so weird.
Dude, yeah, in the program they teach us, I mean, it's just take the next right action. What is the right action I'm supposed to do right now? And after a time, it's like now I know, and my brain starts to know when I wake up and I don't feel good. Sometimes I'll lay there for 1, 2, 3 minutes, but I don't go back to sleep like I used to. You know, I remember for 2 or 3 years I would just go back to bed, you know, just like.
And I've always had so much respect for you, and I've always sort of felt like your career was so naturally just gonna go somewhere big as it is doing now, and I always saw that so clearly, and so. And you always sort of got. I did tell you that. You, like most comedians, cannot hear compliments, and you always sort of had like good-looking girlfriends, and you see like everyone always likes you, and so when you would sort of tell me over the years, like, oh, I'm so depressed this week, I was always like, I always felt like you were almost like a candy raver of depression, like you were like a wannabe, like you weren't really depressed, and I was always like, this fucking guy's just sort of like depression's my thing, right? This fucking guy didn't know shit. This dude's just fucking trying to step on my shit, you know, like a fucking white dude with a do-rag and a chain. You don't know shit about fucking the self-loaded sadness.
Yeah, you come over to my.
You don't fucking know shit, bro. Yeah. But then, like, I'd hear it enough, like, oh, I guess he fucking really does sort of feel like that. But again, it's like weird with a guy like you, because I would always be like, yeah, but I've heard people say the same thing to me, you know, like, you don't seem like that. Or
yeah, I think you would have seemed like, you know, like a little bit frustrated, and like, you know, sometimes have your, you know, your little personality, you know, things that give you also, you know, part of your personality. But it's amazing how, you know, it's amazing how we are able to hide that sort of thing. And it's amazing how we don't recognize when other people say it, you know, what's kind of could be going on.
Hey, dude, you're a cool guy. You're a good person. You're
yeah.
like, that guy doesn't know shit.
Yeah.
That guy doesn't know anything about me.
I could cut that guy's throat.
He doesn't know what a piece of shit I am. Did you worry that when you got sober you wouldn't be as funny? Did you ever drink on stage? About that. Did you drink on stage or no?
A little, but not much. I used to when I was younger, but that shit gets old.
Yeah.
And then I had done cocaine a couple times. I've been on stage at the Comedy Store, like on a packed night, and I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't hear it. It messed up my ears a little, and I couldn't audibly understand like when people were laughing and stuff, and it made it really uncomfortable.
So you got sober and you're like, are you going to be a funny person?
Right. And I've thought about that. I'll take breaks to do like, you know, try like some ayahuasca or mushrooms, or that in the future I may choose to, you know, smoke marijuana and stuff like that, you know, do, you know, I don't know. You know, I don't know how long it'll be for me that I'll be in this program. Hopefully my whole life I'll be in it. You know, I definitely think that it works.
You're definitely an inspiration, though, to any comic who has these fears, because you've gotten, like, infinitely funnier, I think, in the last 2 years.
Well, I will say this. There's proof behind me when I look in the past 2 years that there's positive tracks in the ground. You know, I started a podcast. It's like there's just, you know, there's proof. You know, you and I are working together on a pilot now. It's like, yeah, it's just like, well, there's just things that have happened, whether they were supposed to happen now in my life or not. I don't know. But it would be selfish of me, I think, to not include one of the ingredients, and maybe a major ingredient, in some of these small successes as AA as that ingredient.
Well, think about, like, sometimes, you know, you when you're trying to write or just any point in your life, you know, you're trying to think something through, and you take a walk. And while you're on that walk, you're like, oh, shit, I just figured out the solution to that joke, or I just figured out the solution to that problem. Yeah. Like, your brain is moving all the time.
Yeah.
And when you drink and you do drugs, your brain kind of is shackled for those hours.
Yeah.
And then having to recover. So many jokes don't get worked out as quickly, and so many solutions don't get worked out. Like, I notice now that, like, I'll often put a piece of paper next to me when I meditate in the morning, because I swear to God, every time I do it, I'm meditating, I'm like, oh shit, I have to like file that paper for my taxes. And like that memory escaped me until I just let my brain settle
down.
And then I realized it. It's amazing. Like, it seems like a stupid thing, but it's like, it proves that your brain is thinking all the time. And when you're sober, your brain thinks more. And that's probably why your comedy's gotten so much better this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Your brain wants to help you out.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of things it wants to do, and it's really impressive. And, yeah, we don't realize that sometimes we hamper it, especially as we get a little bit older. You know, I mean, we're in our 30s, so it's different. It's like, you know, when I was 24, whatever, you know. But I got to go home and do my own podcast. I'll come back again, though.
But I kind of feel like if you leave, I'm going to be Like I feel like really empowered and confident in my psychic
You're gonna
journey
jerk
now
off
that
and
we're
relax?
now that you're here talking to you and on my podcast. I feel like I feel confident where I'm at psychologically. I keep saying, but I think as soon as you leave, I'm going to feel empty and sad.
Yeah.
So just sort of hang around.
Okay.
We don't have to do the podcast. Maybe just hang around because it's once I shut this machine off,
Oh, it's gonna get dark in here.
it's going to get real dark. I mean, it is actually getting dark outside, but I
Yeah.
think inside the heart of my soul.
Yeah. Oh, you seem really every
Can
time.
can we FaceTime maybe later?
No, every time I read that Telltale Heart, have you ever read that?
Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah,
What the
always
fuck?
thinking
This is like
about
the
you.
third fucking reference. I heard you make a couple Poe references earlier today, and I'm like, what
Something
the
you
fuck?
bring out of me. I see
Thanks,
ravens.
bud.
I see ravens every time.
Thanks, man. Well, hey, plug your podcast. Theo's got one of the best podcasts around.
I have a fun podcast called This Past Weekend. You can check it out. And yeah, man, I'd love to come back and I always enjoy talking to you, dude. And I'm just so impressed with your work ethic and all you've done.
10 years of friendship. Here's to at least 10 more. I love
man.
you, buddy.
I love you too, man. This one been one of our best years too, I think.
I think we've really got real close this year, and I think we've been very respectful of each other. We've had, little comic-y cat fights over the years,
Yeah.
but I feel like we've sort of hit like a nice zone,
Yeah, we're kind of growing up a little.
I had a big fight with one of my best, oldest friends last night.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, I was real angry about him. I'm still angry about it. And he wrote me a long apologetic email. And I feel like such a fucking child because I know the best thing to do would be to call him.
Right.
But I don't want to call him. I want to I don't want to respond.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I know. But then somehow writing him an email back seems even dumber. Because it's like he's going to be in town next week. It's like we're going to probably hang out. But it just makes me so. I got so angry. And because like when friends like make shit talking jokes about each other, but sometimes it's too real.
Too much, yeah.
And you realize that's what you actually think a little bit. And he did that, and more power to him. He's allowed to have his own thoughts, but it definitely made me like, oh, well, fuck. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I wasn't ready to hear that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that from a friend, a place where I didn't. Yeah. And that's what we do for a fucking living most of the time, too, probably.
It's one thing if we say it about ourselves.
Right.
If somebody else has it, you're like, because you know what sucks? When you say something about yourself on stage that's real dark, you feel like this is a secret you're sharing with the audience. But when they're like, oh, we already could see that. You're like, oh, shit. I didn't realize it was just dripping out of me. Like, oh, yeah, no, it's very clear. You're oozing venom. You are a pustule. Oh, fuck. All right. Hey, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, you bet, man. I want to come back soon, dude. I'll talk to you later.
All right.